Hello and welcome to another edition of Relationships Uncut. This is your host, Kenny Pugh, relationship expert, life coach, speaker, author, all of that good stuff. Excited to have you with me for yet another episode of Relationships Uncut. And it's been a while since I had a chance to turn on this microphone, and it just seemed like today was the day. Today was that day where I wanted to actually get back on the microphone because I felt like it was time for me to get back in front of each of you and to continue to share some thoughts, man. One of the things that's becoming very, 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 very challenging for me is really trying to get to a place where I guess where I feel like good information is being received. And let me tell you what I mean by that is that I've been doing this for some years, man. And it's been an incredible journey. I've had a chance to go to some incredible places and had a chance to meet some great people, such as yourself. And if I haven't yet met you, one day, hopefully that will be the case. But it's just been just a whirlwind, ups and downs, and some stops along the way, and just kind of sharing this journey with each of you has been an incredible opportunity, but it's also revealed some things as well. One of the things that I've noticed that even though I try to share a lot of helpful information and insight, it's not always received and acted upon. So it might be received and listened to, received and heard, but not necessarily listened to. And so I'll tell you what I mean by that. It's just, it can be frustrating to see some of the people that I know I've been intentionally trying to guide along this journey, man, and to really get them in a place where they can be productive in relationships and how to identify healthy and positive relationships and all of that good stuff. But to be years into the journey and still see some of my, friends and people that are near and dear to my heart continue to make the same mistakes, even with a plethora of helpful information and insight at their fingertips. And so I took some time off, man, just really to get back into me and to try to find a different way to convey this message that I know can be somewhat challenging. It can be somewhat frustrating, and it goes against some of the norm of what a lot of people are sharing out there. And for me, I can only be me. I only know how to do me. I know the mistakes that I've made. I know some of the challenges that I've been through. I know a lot of the forks and the bumps in the road that would lead people to a certain direction that they shouldn't be going to. And it's just one of those things, man, that, hey, at the end of the day, I just want to see people be successful. I want to see people excited about life. I want to see people, really, I want to see you get to the place where you are excited about relationships and meeting the right people and trying to stay out of harm's way, and to really get to a place where you can smile and connect and identify healthy people when they come into your life. And so with that being said, it's just kind of an amazing thing where I just had to find a way to repackage or to refocus or reprioritize what this journey is all about for me, and to make sure that I'm able to assist you as we move forward. And so with that being said, it's the post Thanksgiving time frame, and yet still in advance of another major holiday as we approach the end of the year, and Christmas is rapidly approaching. And so one of the things that's near and dear and that's touching and tugging on my heart even today is to help people realize that you are not going to find or be able to identify Mr. or Mrs. Right if you continue to hold on to Mr. or Mrs. Wrong. And what do I mean by that? It simply means this. There are a number of you who might be engaged in relationships, and you deep down inside, you know that that person, that man, that woman is not the one that you ultimately want to be with long term. And so with that being the case, the question is, well, why do you remain with him or her? Why? Why do you remain with him or her if you know deep down inside that that person is not the one for you? And it is a question that seems very obvious to answer. And for me, seems like one that requires, very little thought. When you think about the man or the woman that you are currently with, if you are in a relationship, is he or she someone that you can see yourself doing life till death do you part? I'm just going to ask you straight up, flat out like that. Is the person that you are currently in a relationship with the one you can see being a part of your life till death do you part? Is that the person that you can see yourself doing life's journeys with? The ups and the downs, the sickness and in health, and rich for richer, for poor. Is the person that you're with right now, is that the person that you can see yourself doing life with? If the answer is yes, then bravo, keep going, because that's something very, very much, it needs to be celebrated when you know that you're connected to the person that you can see yourself doing life with. For those of you who are in that position where you're like, I don't know, the question I will ask you is, well, why don't you know? What is it about him or her that will have you in a position where you say, you know what, I don't know if he or she is the one I can do life's journey with. We just met. We are just kind of early in this journey. If that's the case, then hey, that is great. Continue to move forward and learning about that person. But if you've been with this person for some time and you realize that, hey, I'm at a position where I don't know, then you probably do know. You probably do know where you are in this journey called relationship. And so the point of making this known is that you're not going to connect with Mr. or Mrs. Right by holding on to Mr. or Mrs. Wrong. And quite frankly, you're doing yourself and him or her a disservice by continuing to pursue a relationship when you both deep down inside know that it's not the relationship that you ultimately want. And so let me qualify this for a second. For the ladies out there dating men and just kind of hanging around, but you're giving him everything that he would want, more than likely, he's not going to disrupt the apple cart. He's not going to disrupt what's currently taking place because there's a sense of comfort. There's a sense of knowing what's taking place and that, hey, why do it if, why disrupt something that seems to be going and doing pretty well right now? But that's one thing. So you might be asking, well, why doesn't he take the initiative? Well, the reality is if he's in a place where he's receiving sex, money, financial support, if that's what he desires, or, you're taking care of him like a husband, and that's something that he's gotten used to, and he hasn't had to make any commitment along with that, then it's going to be highly unlikely that he's going to disrupt the apple cart until the conversation is brought to the forefront. And today might need to be that day where you bring the conversation to the forefront, because if he's receiving the benefits and has no intention of the commitment, then there's a conversation that needs to be had. There needs to be some dialogue, some discussion that takes place so that you are both on the same page and that you both have an opportunity to really make a decision, a well-informed decision. And so if that's you, then take action. That's your action item for today, is to say, you know what, we need to sit down and have a conversation, because I can't go into another year doing the same old, unless you're cool with that. If you're cool with that, then this conversation may not be for you. But this is for someone who knows that they want more, may not be getting what they ultimately desire, and that are in a place of complacency, when in reality, you know, you want so much more out of that relationship. If that's the case, then you need to have that conversation. You especially need to have the conversation if you have not yet identified, you know, hey, that this person is not for me. Well, let me restate that. You need to have this conversation when you know absolutely that this person is not for you, and that you are just kind of hanging in there, waiting around for another opportunity that might be better served for you. So you just kind of hold on to the relationship that you currently have, in hopes that a new one is going to come and sweep you off your feet. Well, the purpose of tonight's conversation is just simply this: that reality or likelihood of that taking place is going to be very, very low. And think about it for a second. Even if Mr. or Mrs. Right were to come into your life, if you're holding on to Mr. or Mrs. Wrong, are you truly in a position to take action when Mr. or Mrs. Right is coming into your life anyway? You need to kind of detach and detox and purge from the current situation that you're in, so that you can be prepared and refreshed and revitalized and welcoming of a new opportunity that's coming into your life. I don't know who that piece of information is for, but you know deep down inside that you're not in a relationship that's going anywhere. And that if you had an opportunity to meet Mr. or Mrs. Right today, you would take it. You might not know what to do with it, because that's part of the reason why I'm having this conversation with you. But you know deep down inside that this person is not the one for you. And you're just holding on because you want to have someone in your life until Mr. or Mrs. Right comes along. And I'm trying to encourage you that that's not the right approach to take, especially as we close out this year. You owe yourself so much more. You owe him or her so much more. You owe yourself the opportunity to cleanse, detox, and purge, so that you can be prepared for the person that you want, that you ultimately want to come into your life. And so hopefully, you can take heed to this conversation that I'm having with you this evening, and really embracing the fact that, hey, you know what? He might have a point. I might need to take this season, this opportunity, to detach and really prepare and position yourself for what it is you ultimately want in your life. I want you to be happy. You want to be happy. You want your significant other to be happy. And life is too short to be miserable. It really is. It's too short to be miserable, man. And so hopefully, willingly, you are willing to do that for yourself. We don't need any more average or mediocre relationships in our society today. And quite frankly, if we could detach those who know that they aren't meant for one another, but just kind of marking time, it will free them up, just like it'll free you up to meet the person that they're ultimately supposed to be with. And so a lot of this soulmate talk and discussions, and those who have been around me for a while know that I'm not a buyer into soulmates from the perspective of there's one person for you and only you. I am of the belief that there are decisions that you can make along life's journey, and you can connect with a great and awesome person and live a happily ever after life together. But if there was this whole theme, and this is kind of my rationale behind it, if there was only one person for everyone, that there's a lot of people void of their significant other, their soulmate, because they're so entangled with the wrong people or the wrong person right now. And you might be someone who's guilty of holding someone back from their significant other, their soulmate, because you want to hold on to them. And if that's the case, then shame on you. It's time for us to really take a step back and say, you know what? It's time for us to do the right thing. And so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I simply want you to ask yourself that question. What am I going to do now? Now that I have this information, am I willing to have the hard discussion, the tough conversation? Hopefully you are. And I hope that it leads to a place where you can feel relieved, where you can go through the process of grieving that relationship coming to an end, but preparing for the happily ever after that you so much deserve. And so that's what I just kind of wanted to leave with you, coming back from this, kind of Thanksgiving time period, and having the chance to sit back and reflect on some things, and really wanting to get back out here and do some things, some influencing when it comes to this particular area, because once again, I see so many mistakes being made, and I see so much bad advice being shared, and so much bad advice being adhered to and ultimately chased and solicited. And what I've learned is that there are people tend to be attracted to that which might sound good, but not necessarily be good for them. And so I want to get back out here. I want to share the message of friends. Become friends first, because that'll sustain you through relationships when everything else around you might be falling apart. Friends, then date, then get engaged, then have the wedding or the celebration. And then in that process of engagement and the process of dating, make sure that you're learning as much about that person as you possibly can, as much as you possibly can, so that you can move forward in your happily ever after. Don't prepare for a wedding, prepare for a marriage. Prepare for the long-term journey. Learn how to communicate. Learn how to sacrifice. Learn how to be selfless. Learn how to be flexible in the things of life, because it's very, very, very important that you get that lesson now, as opposed to waiting till you're in the mix. Have the tough conversations. Talk about health situations when it gets to that point. Talk about finances when it comes to that point. Talk about sex and family and all that stuff when it comes to that point. But not everybody's worth that conversation. And if you're with someone who's not, then now's the time to go ahead and make the transition so that you can move into the next season of your life prepared and purged and healthy, so that you can celebrate and be excited as you move forward. So that's all I have for you this evening. And once again, this is not meant to be a tough talk, just one that I want to be real. Just kind of wanted to pop the mic for today and just have this conversation, because I see so many people making this mistake. And this is the best time as ever to have this kind of reflection and introspection, where you look inside and say, what do I truly want? What do I truly deserve? Am I getting what I truly want and deserve? And is the person that I'm connected to capable of providing me with that? And then take the steps from there. As always, I'm excited to be available to you. I want you to go out and visit my website, kennypugh.com, KENNYPUGH.com. Connect with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Kenny Pugh on Facebook, Instagram, Mr. Kenny Pugh on Twitter. That's MRKENNYPUGH on Twitter. And I'm just going to try to get more involved in providing some guidance and direction when it comes to this thing called relationships, because there's so much bad advice, and I don't want you to fall victim to that as we move forward in this thing called life. So with that being said, thanks a lot for joining me for Relationships Uncut. As always, if you want to have me deal with the topic, or talk about something in particular, I would love to do so. Just give me a shout. Give me a shout. Drop me a line, email, connect with me on social media and say, hey, can you deal with this topic? And I'll see if I can get it in rotation. All right. Until next time, take care. Relationships Uncut. Peace.